There we go. Okay, so right now in Math 211, there are 12 people. How many introductions must be made so that each person meets all of the others? All right, so we're going to try to answer this in a second. Before we do that, I just want to talk a little bit about problem solving in general with some information about the book. So again, we got 12 people. I think we're up to 13 now, so I'm going to adjust that, make the problem more interesting. How many introductions have to be made so that each person meets all of the others? Our book talks about a 4-step problem-solving procedure. And this is from an educational theorist called Puglia. So 4 steps of problem solving. And the first step is to understand the problem. The second step is to devise a plan. To solve the problem. Third step, do the plan. Right? Try what you think you should do. And the first step is to rethink whether it worked. And this isn't exactly a like, yeah, do step 1, then do step 2, do step 3. What often happens is we try to understand the problem, right? We read it. Okay, I read it, I got it. And then I start making a plan and I realize, oh, I don't quite get what he means by introduction or everybody, really, everybody. As I'm trying to make a plan, I might realize I don't quite get the problem and I got some more research to do. Or as I'm trying to implement my plan, I realize, ooh, there's a flaw and I have to remake my plan as I'm trying to work it. Sometimes you look at a problem and you say, oh yeah, I think this is what I should do. And then you try it and then you check and maybe you're right, okay? Any hard problem I've received, I never went straight through in one shot and boom, I was done. Just doesn't happen that way. Otherwise, it wasn't really a problem. I actually knew how to do it and it's done. So there's a lot that has to go on in this understanding, and this is more like a cycle that you go through, because when in any of these steps, you realize you might have to go back and try to understand it better or revise your plan. Sometimes maybe you do a nice sweep, get to the end, and then, oops, there's a mistake. You go back and try and do it all over again. But it's a pretty cyclical process. It's not as easy as these 4 steps might imply, because some problems are harder than others. So this is kind of a general way that we humans approach solving any kind of problem. Now, the other thing to consider are possible strategies. Like, what kinds of things do we do in our plan? So if you could think about that for a second, like, what have you done to try and solve a hard problem before? What are some strategies you've enacted? So think about that for a minute and either speak something or throw it into the chat. I seem to have lost my chat. Let's get it back. There we go. Dismissing. Where's the chat? Hiding. There you are. Okay, so I've got a trial and error. That's a good one. Yeah. Let's write it down. Now, synonymous with trial and error is guess and check, right? We often use that to mean the same thing. And a lot of teachers and other people think, well, that's not really a strategy. Okay, if this is completely random, it definitely ain't a strategy. So one thing I want to make a note about the trial and error, the guess and check, it's like an educated guess. There's something systematic about it. So that this trial and error, this guess and check is not random. If it is, we're unlikely to get any results from it. But I do a systematic trial and error all the time when I'm solving problems. All right, somebody help me out. Something else. Break down. Okay, what do you mean by break down? But I like that. I think I know what you mean.
Like if it's a really like super long one, take it piece by piece.
Yeah. Okay, break down. To smaller parts, maybe. Okay, and then working backwards, yup. Like we know like what the answer's gotta look like, and so we try to backtrack to what the beginning should look like. It's a good one. All right, something else you can think of you might have done when you were trying to solve a problem. So don't be shy. If you don't want to speak, throw it in the chat, but feel free to speak. Numbers. What do you mean by numbers? That's a good one, I think. So when I think about find a pattern, okay, so we're going to look for number patterns. Oops, let's use a different color. How about red again? Number patterns. When I'm working with numbers and solving a problem, I might make a table to try and organize it. A lot of times, so this helps me, and this is super important, and it sounds kind of stupid, but it's not, I don't think. Write stuff down. Well, I wrote down this problem up here, right? What benefit would there be in you writing it down? Well, as you write it down, you're working your brain, and your brain might be making connections. The more stuff you put on paper, you free your brain to connect the dots and make something happen. So write stuff down, write stuff down, write stuff down. So I usually rewrite the problem in my own words. That's part of my writing stuff down. And then I start thinking about related things I might need to know. Sometimes I'm just like so lost, I draw a picture. And you might say, I draw a picture if somebody says, hey, there's this garden that's 22 by 30. Okay, I'm going to draw a rectangular garden. But, what kind of drawing would I do here? Well, I'm going to draw some people as I try to think about it. All right, so we've got, Gary here, and Gary needs to meet Renee over here. Renee, nice to meet you. And then Maria comes in and she says, hey, nice to meet you, Gary and Renee. And so I'm kind of thinking about everything that's happening in those introductions, trying to process what's going on. So I'll make sketches, and the sketches will have something to do with the problem, and sometimes that will lead to an idea. So write stuff down, rewrite the problem. Making a table, breaking things down into smaller parts, kind of related to that breaking things down into smaller parts is to try a simpler problem, which is a little bit different sometimes. Like 13 people, that's not a big class, but when I have to count, that feels big. So maybe I'll do 4 people or 3 people, okay? So I'm gonna put us into breakout rooms for a few minutes, and let's make sure I can make that happen. Let's see, I'm gonna stop the sharing.